Welcome to Afros and Audio's Black History Month interview series. My name is Talib Jasir, founder and CEO of Afros and Audio Podcast Festival and the Vanguard Podcast Network. I'm excited to spotlight 29 outstanding indie podcast creatives and professionals who answered the call to be a part of the series. My guest today is Victor Jones. Welcome and thank you for being here. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me to be a part of this Black History series. I'm honored and humbled to be a part of it.
Awesome, man. I'm glad you're here. So, share with our audience a bit about yourself and the journey that led you to Liquor Talk Podcast.
A little about me is I'm a college graduate, and I was always looking for a platform to speak on, to speak my mind, to give my takes about things. And social media didn't really how long-winded my stories could be, which led me into podcasting. And I saw how easy it was, so I did everything I could, and I came up with a name. I looked into the equipment. And then first couple seasons had a co-host, but then the second season I figured out how to have guests on from different places. And ever since then, the rest has been history. Almost 200 something episodes later, by the time Afros and Audios come out, we'll be done hit 300 episodes. So probably like in the summertime, we done hit 300. So, but yeah, like I said, I'm a fun person. I'm definitely outspoken. I'm definitely motivational as well. So all those combined, which led to the podcast. And once you find something you're passionate about, that's where we at.
Word, word. I love that, man. And so, talk to us a little bit about Liquor Talk. How did the name come about?
Okay, the funny story about how the name came about was my last year of college, which was at FAMU. Last year, I was just home playing games. I was at the age where I got tired of going out all the time. So I was just sipping on some liquor and I just had some thoughts in my mind. And I started to record these thoughts on social media and it started to get a buzz. And people were looking forward to it. They were like, hey, I got my liquor ready. And first it was Hennessy talk, then it was Grey Goose talk, and then I got to a point I said, let me just call this liquor talk. And because sometimes when you be on some liquor, you have the realest thoughts. They say a drunk mind tells sober truths. And from there, I started looking into podcasting. I saw how it was done, and I was like, wow, I could do this. And just how liquor talk came to be, just having some real conversations with liquor and without getting drunk now, you know what I'm saying? Because we didn't evolve from okay, we about to get messed up to now let's just have some liquor, have some conversations, and let people tell their stories.
Nice, nice. And I agree with you. I've been cursed out of many a times off of liquor. Somebody telling they sober truths. Okay,
That's
tell me how
true.
you really feel. All right, that's what's up. So your podcast, Liquor Talk, covers a range of modern cultural topics. How do you decide which topics to tackle in each episode, and how does the inclusion of liquor influence these discussions? You already kind of talked about that, but if you want to weave that in again, let me know.
How I decide the topics is I do research on what's trending topics. I see what's going on in the news. I see what's going on within the Black community. And also, I see what my fellow Black indie podcasters are talking about as well. And how liquor comes into play is just whatever we're feeling is. And sometimes I'll talk to my guests and be like, what you like to drink? And I'll figure out what they like to drink. And that's what I'm probably going to have. Or if they don't drink, well, respect to them too. I'll just be on some water that day. So it's kind of how it all comes about.
All right, cool. Thank you for that. And your experience hosting events and breakout sessions at different conferences and different organizations or networking events, what unique insights have you gained about engaging with an audience in the podcasting space?
What I've learned about hosting events is people will show up for you. And it's because I know the first time I did, I was like, I wasn't expecting a full room, but I got the full room. And it's like when you have people in there, you got to give them a good message. And you know what I'm saying? That's how you gain the experience because I saw some of the rooms, it weren't quite full. And that's why I was kind of skeptical. But then my session came along and we had the full room. I'm like, wow. And now it was up to me to deliver the message. And I made some great contacts, and it was also fun to see people I've recorded with in that session as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's the greatest opportunity about these conferences and networking events is reuniting with folks that a lot of times you only speak with them virtually. And then to be in a room with them, that's one of the coolest experiences.
Yes, it is.
All right. So you mentioned in your submission that podcasting has brought more bonds and opportunities your way, and you just kind of talked about that specifically around conferences. But can you share a specific instance where podcasting has significantly impacted your life?
Yeah, podcasting has significantly impacted my life because You never know who's listening to your podcast. And I remember it was a friend of mine who I recorded with, I think it was like episode 98 or episode 99 of Liquor Talk. I didn't know this at the time. He went back and told a group of people that I think somebody was trying to organize a group of people to review a TV show. And long story short, he mentions my name to the person in charge. And the person in charge added me. And from there, we were recording shows and stuff, talking about this TV show called Insecure one time for Easter. And then we get down to the last episode and we all asking where we all live at. Come to find out, the organizer, he lives in Orlando and I'm in Tampa. And for anybody that's been to Florida, Tampa and Orlando ain't nothing but an hour away. So that led to us meeting in person and we hit it off. And what it also led to is me having a place to do the podcast live in the studio, and also me helping him with his events and stuff because he's already done told me for 2024 I'm gonna have you hosting events, I'm gonna have you working these events, and I'm doing interviews as well. So, and also I'm gonna book you for events within the Orlando area as well. So you just never know, which is why I say you stay with it because you never know who's listening to your podcast and you never know what connections you can make just by opening up your platform. So that's how podcasting has really impacted it. Because if I never opened up the platform and I made a good impact on somebody and communicated of where you're at, it's like that would have never happened. Because what I've learned is sometimes in your hometown, people ain't really supporting, but it's the ones not in your hometown that are making things happen.
Absolutely, man. Congratulations for that. That's super dope. It is something to be said about you got to get off the sidelines if you want to be in the game, man. And I love that you recognize that earlier. And at what point in the journey of your podcasting, because you have a lot of episodes, you put in a lot of work. So I would say you paid some dues and you are prepared for an opportunity like this, which is really dope. Did you start out believing that this is going to open doors for me, or was that something that kind of came along as you progressed in your podcast?
It's something I always believed. I believe it would progress, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I did have doubts, you know what I'm saying? After my first co-host left on me, you know what I'm saying? The doubts started to creep in, but then once I figured out the technology and really let podcasting be an outlet and make it a passion, some of the doubts it creeps up, but it goes away because you're like, you know what? Yeah, I tell myself I'm always an episode closer to making this what I really want it to be.
That's an awesome perspective, man. And I'm curious. You mentioned that your co-host dropped off in the first season, and not to get into that story, but what did you have to draw from to say, I can do this on my own? I don't have to have a co-host, because sometimes there's a famous quote. I'm a coach and I use, quotes a lot to kind of push the point, and even in my writing. And there's a quote by Howard Thurman that says, there's two questions you must ask yourself. One is, where am I going? And the second is, who's going to go with me? And if you ever get those two questions reversed, you're in trouble. And
Mhm.
so a lot of times what that basically means is that if you start out with someone and that's who you're relying on and then it falls off, there you are. But if you start out with your vision and your own mission and commitment to it, and then let people come with you, even if they start out with you, you still have your same commitment to what it is that you wanted to create. So how did you decide, I'm not going to give this up?
I did test run an episode just to see what's like going by myself, and it got good responses. And you know what? That really kept me going. And then it was at another, like a little networking event, I met the second interim co host, you know what I'm saying? And that's how we kept it going. Around that time, I really started to learn the technology. I said, if I open up this platform, then that's what really kept me going is the fact that I realized that, oh my goodness, I could just post in this group and people will hit me up to come on the podcast. So that's what really was assigned to me. You got this. Keep going.
Good, man. I'm really happy that you did keep going and that you did validate yourself. That's important. A
Mhm.
lot of time, us as creatives, we spend a lot of time waiting on others, looking for that validation, and to keep pushing forward and seeing what will come out of it. Just seeing, like, all you can do is see. And for you to be willing to explore it and to keep moving forward, I really commend you for that. That's dope, man.
I just didn't want to fall into that statistic because they say the average podcast has only 7 episodes. I just didn't want to fall into that statistic. So
Well, you didn't. You 300 in by next October. So you did that and then some. So that's really dope. So you featured over 100 different black content creators. And that's a remarkable achievement, as we just spoke about. So, how did you approach the selection process? How do you secure your guests? Who are you looking for when you secure your guests?
what I'm looking for is just people that want to tell their stories. Because just how I gave my story about Liquor Talk, there's so many different stories about how people came up with their platforms, whether it's Lipstick Laundry on One Time for Shiny or 25 and Over Club. There's so many different people that have different stories about how they came to their platform. And what I found is some of them, they will really give you a good conversation if you let them shine, if you give them the spotlight, they will really give you a good conversation. So like I said, I just ask people to just be flexible and be available and just be ready to go because sometimes you can have people that do those two things, but then you'll have some people that don't come on and give you a good episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine a lot of content creators, especially people who interview people for a living or for their own podcast, it's rare that they get to tell their story, right? They're always doing the interviewing and letting other people tell their story. So it's
Mhm.
really awesome that your platform gives them a chance to say, this is why I named it. This is why I'm here. This is how I'm doing it. That's pretty much what we're doing here. And I just think it's really important that we're able to do that for one another.
Yes, it is.
Nice, nice. So, based on your experience, what is one crucial piece of advice you would offer to podcast hosts, audio professionals, or community leaders who are just starting their platform?
Don't start what you can't finish. And you gotta be prepared for it. There's no finish line. Don't start something if you're not prepared to put in the work, you know what I'm saying? Because they ain't just get on the mic and let's talk and let's advertise. No, it's a whole lot more. It's you gotta network, you gotta go out here and you gotta be supporting others as well. So the biggest thing is don't start where you can't finish because I looked over my content and I looked over the guests. Some of those guys, they're not podcasting today. And I find it disappointing. So the biggest thing to me is I can tell your listeners and everybody is don't start something you can't finish.
Yeah, and there's this thing with podcasting that I really wish that more creatives understood, especially when we are creating podcasts. Writers don't write one book, musicians don't sing one song, filmmakers don't make one film. And so there's this opportunity in podcasting to pivot, to create another story. Once you are done with that podcast that you named and you loved and you did it, the topics and everything that you wanted to commit to with that, there's an opportunity to tell different stories. There is an opportunity to create something new. And I think that is something that we should start talking about more inside of podcasting because you're right, people simply fade away. It's a lot of temporariness in this space that I definitely, with Afros and Audio, want to see change. And it may not be that the podcast you started is the podcast you end with. What I mean by that is that in your podcasting career, if you're here for 10 years, you might have three, four different podcasts, and that's okay. It's better than fading and going away and saying, well, I did it, I'm done, unless it's just no longer your passion. And then, yes, go away because everybody will be able to tell if it's no longer what you want to do. So I get it.
Right.
You talked about them a little bit earlier, but you chose to shout out the Lipstick Laundry podcast. What about this podcast resonates with you, and why should our audience give it a listen?
Your audience should definitely give them a listen because they hold it down. She keeps it real and she features a lot of different ladies or gentlemen that comes through, but she definitely keeps it real. And the reason why that name popped up in my head is because she's somebody that's came on, made multiple appearances on Liquor Talk, and you know what? Whenever I hit her up, hey, I need want to have you on the podcast. She ready to go. You know what I'm saying? She did the birthday episode with me this year. She was on the season 5 opening premiere episode, kicked off a season. That's big to me. So that's the one thing I got love for her. You know what I'm saying? She's always ready to go and always supportive. So that's the one thing. So y'all should definitely tap in with the Lipstick Laundry podcast. I'm gonna try to get her to come to Baltimore with me this year when we do for the Afros audio. So
That's awesome, man. I love that collaboration. Are there any other collaborations that you want to highlight or shout out that you, I mean, you've got a lot of episodes. Anything specific about what you've done? Anything that just really stands out to you? Like, I really enjoyed when I made this collaboration, or I did something a little bit different in my episode, or anything like that that you can think of?
I want to shout out to all the fellas that have come on the men's on around once a month. Get all come together to have a man talk. You know what I'm saying? Different brothers. Shout out to my brother Don. He's the one over the studio in Orlando that he got me the opportunities. Also shout out to my brother Juggy. He hosts BOJ Radio. He does what now it's called Book of Clarity. He handles all of the politics and advises the black community of politics. Those two guys, they always ready to go when it's the men's only round. And also shout out to all the other men that done stepped in and had a conversation. So if you're ever available, definitely gonna come hop on and be a part of the men's only round to have our man talk discussions. And it's also good because people can hear us men giving enlightening thoughts and not the BS thoughts to have people in 2023 saying, oh, we need to cancel men podcast. So
Yeah, and talk about that a little bit. I mean, being as though you do create space for men to talk on your podcast, and we do see the polarizing aspects of men showing up in podcasts. I've seen countless memes, I've seen countless videos of people just imitating and really showcasing the silliness that might go on. But, I think there's room for everything, at least what's going on in people's heads, and
mhm.
to stay away from them if that's not your cup of tea. So I think there's room for all conversations, whether you like it or not, and to also have the option to not listen if you don't want to, acknowledging that there are some damaging conversations, but that goes for everybody who hits the mic, right? That's not gender specific. That could be for anyone. But I would like to hear your thoughts on when 2023 popped up and people were literally saying men should stop having podcasts. How did that make you feel? What was your perspective about that?
Excuse my French, but I just didn't give a damn what they had to say because you don't know what perspectives are. You are listening to a certain selective men. You ain't listening to all of us. You listening to some of them, and it's like you don't agree with what they're saying, and now it's like all men should not have platform, but you're ignoring the brothers who do be keeping it 100 on the podcast. And it's like you said, if you don't agree with something, you can just turn it off or find somebody that resonates with you because there's a lot of us out here. And it's just so damaging to me that at first it was damaging, but then I was like, you know what? This don't apply to me. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm still going to do it no matter what they say. You know what I'm saying? The only thing that's going to stop me is me. So there's nothing you can really do or nothing you can really do about it. And I just hope all the other men don't get discouraged by hearing that from people be like, oh, shut down the podcast. No, you need to keep going. And if your message doesn't resonate with that person, it doesn't resonate with that person because you never know. There's somebody that does resonate with you. And then there's somebody that it may not resonate with them, but they enjoy listening to your content because maybe they need a kick.
Man, there's balance. I mean, this world is about duality, right? So there's going to be the madness, and then there's going to be the calm. And again, I think there's room for everything because I'd rather hear your thoughts out loud than you keep them to yourself, and then I don't know what type of person you are. So again, I'm here for it. I do know that we as people sometimes we get caught up in respectability politics and not wanting to have secondhand embarrassment for somebody else's words. But listen, you, and I'm me, and that's how we're gonna rock. So I enjoy your perspective about that, and again, your willingness to say that doesn't apply to me, and not get caught up in this noise because that's really all it is. Uh, no matter who it's coming from, it's just noise. If you don't like it, turn it off. If you don't like something and you want a different perspective, create it yourself, right?
Hmm.
That's also the opportunity. Just based off of your perspective and how you started your podcast, Liquor Talk Podcast. Now, I've been on podcasts where they had a drink, I had a drink, and all that good stuff. So that's nothing new underneath the sun, but you have a perspective around it. Why spirits? Why liquor? Why create a podcast around liquor?
Because it goes back to what I said earlier. When you're on the liquor, the truth comes out. So that's why I decided to have a podcast based on spirits. And sometimes, if you listen, it ain't just liquor. Sometimes we be on wine, or sometimes we be on wine coolers, or sometimes we be on beer. You know what I'm saying? It's just whatever we get our hands on at the time. And then that sometimes just to throw curveballs at people and to show love to the people recovering alcoholics. There'll be episodes where we're just completely sober.
Absolutely. And when it comes to, I know that Shout out to Quincy Q, and hopefully you met him at the conference. He's from Detroit, and he does a bourbon podcast, whiskey and bourbon, or something like that. And they have managed to connect with a black-owned bourbon makers and collaborate with them on events and networking and stuff like that. Is that in your future?
I definitely think that's in my future. Like I said, there's just people that I do have to get with to help me out when to go over these networks and stuff because I do know there are people out there who, what I'm saying, they definitely help you with coaching and pitching and all that stuff. So that's definitely in the realm of something I would like to do. I just gotta, what I'm saying, come up with the funds to help them out, get them, pay them to coach and stuff, help me out with networking, help me with marketing and stuff. So that's definitely in the pipelines. I definitely see that for myself because there's definitely a lot of liquor brands I would love to talk to, what I'm saying, and feature on the podcast.
All right, man. We're gonna make that an intentional goal for 2024 because it's out there and you have done the work, man. So it is definitely an opportunity for you to tap in
Mhm.
for sure. So I definitely want to see you get those collaborations if that's something that you want. And again, we here, man. This is what Afros and Audio is here for, and Black Podcast Association for that support and resources because we get to kind of accelerate some of these things too, and not just kind of wait until we feel like there's limiting beliefs. I'm a coach, so sometimes I go through that. But there's limiting beliefs that
Yeah.
says, well, I don't have this yet, so I can't do that yet. There's support and there's resources out there right now that you can tap into to create that opportunity for yourself. And I want to make sure that you get that because that's dope, man.
Yeah.
There's no reason to have a liquor talk podcast and not a liquor talk money. All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I respect that. All right. So, as you look to the future, what are some projects or collaborations that you're excited about? We just talked about the liquor one, but I brought that to you. So, even though you were thinking about it, I mentioned that. So, I want to know from you, are there any projects or collaborations that you are excited about for 2024?
For 2024, I'm just excited about whatever guests pop on, whether it's new guests or returning guests or whatever people I get to hear from. Also excited about whatever events I get to work on while I'm in Orlando. Also, whatever podcasts and festivals I get to attend and stuff, and even the ones I get the opportunity to speak at. What I'm saying, I'm definitely excited for those. I'm definitely look forward to the collaborations, and I'm also looking forward to also taking the show on the road, which is me doing live shows at different studios in different places because I find I do like to do shows in person. So I look forward to all of that and just trying to find the resources to make all of that happen.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And it's important that you are mentioning that because just like I was talking about the opportunity to pivot and do another podcast if you need to, just like anything, things get stale, things get monotonous, things get regular, routine, and you can get bored with it. So the idea that you were saying, listen, it's time and there's opportunity for me to do something different. I'm still committed to my podcast, and how can I like sprinkle some new inside of it for myself?
Mhm.
And I remember one of your talks at Afros and Audio was "Have Fun Again" or something like that. I don't know the exact
Yeah.
title. I don't have the memory like that, but I do remember that. So talk a little bit about that's basically what you're doing. You're creating some fun for yourself.
Yeah, the way I gotta make it fun is bring somebody on. What I'm saying? Bring on fresh perspectives. Like fresh perspectives always make the podcast fun. And even if it's somebody that you've recorded with before, you don't know how life has changed for them in the time y'all been recording. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't have guests on this season that last time they were on, it was like season 2 or season 3. And it's always nice to hear the life changes and hear where they at compared to where they were when we talk. So that's how I keep it fun. And also, if you feel like it's getting mundane or becoming a chore, you always got to do something to change it, whether it's bring somebody on or just create a new segment.
Absolutely. So that's a resource that I'm looking forward to creating this year is about sustainability for creatives in general. Like before you quit, have you thought about this? Have you considered doing that? Just really getting people in the mindset of I can do something different. I can expand. I can progress this thing. I can elevate this thing in a way that I wasn't considering in where I am right now because I didn't know. So a lot of us do all we know to do. And so there's an opportunity for us to kind of expand our minds and see what else we can explore with the things that we're creating. So I love that for you, man. All right. So is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience? Perhaps a piece of wisdom, funny anecdote from your podcasting journey? or just a message for Black History Month.
My message for Black History Month is be great. Don't let nothing stop us, because people in this world, the world, they trying to be us, they trying to stop us, and we got to continue to be unstoppable. And for my content creators, we need to keep creating content and don't let the outside noise, don't drink the rat poison, you know what I'm saying? So just keep creating content. And for everybody out there, if you guys need somebody to need a platform, I'm looking forward to have you on Liquor Talk. And also, I'm looking forward to come on y'all platforms.
All right. So, in what ways besides the podcast are you engaging with your audience? Do you do any things on social media or anything else to kind of build a community around an audience for Liquor Talk?
I'm working on starting to go live more on Instagram, have more Instagram live segments, and also to go live on Twitch as well. So I'm looking to do those things. I'm also be hosting events as well, and just to be out in the city and out wherever, you know what I'm saying? Just go to any different networking events and to lend my voice to wherever I'm needed. So
All right, that's awesome, man. And will it be your lives? Will they be extension of the podcast, or will you be using them as podcast episodes?
there will be an extension of the podcast, maybe some bonus rounds. I may look into doing some book club stuff. I just got to talk to my fellas, see what they want to do, and see what ideas they have. So, whatever ideas the people have to do expansion, that's probably what we're going to do. Might be some bonus rounds where we talk on the live about the episode, the day it dropped. You know what I'm saying? We might bring up a topic and get another opinion as well.
All right, cool, man. Where can people find you?
If you want the podcast, wherever you get your podcast at, just put in Liquor Talk and it'll pop right up. If you want to find me, the person, it's Twitter, Instagram, Real V Jones. Or if you want to email me, it's vj.entertainment@yahoo.com. Or if you're on Facebook, it's the Liquor Talk the page. Wherever you get me, I respond to everything wherever you get me, whether it's social media, email, wherever.
All right, awesome, man. I really enjoyed our conversation today, Victor. It's been great. We've connected in person, we've been at the conference, but the opportunity to do this is rare, at least for me. And so I'm glad that we were able to connect for longer than a few minutes in passing at the conference and that sort of thing. So once again, man, thank you for coming on. I definitely want everybody to check out Liquor Talk Podcast. It's really a great content that you are creating. And the episodes, man, you racking them up. So that's something to be really proud of, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
For sure. So I'm going to wrap this up, and I just want you to hold on really quickly for me, okay? All right. I want to give a big thanks to our Afros and Audio and Black podcast community for supporting our commitment for community and collaboration. If you'd like to join the Black Podcasters Association, the link will be in the description below. And if you want to join us at the 6th Annual Afros and Audio Podcast Festival, visit afrosanaudio.com. Follow Afros and Audio on all social media channels, and you can find and follow me at Talib Jasir on Instagram. Thanks again, Victor, for being a part of Afros and Audio's Black History Month interview series. I really appreciate your time, man.
Thank you for having me.